SBR Forum's Inside the Lines is sponsored by Bookmaker.
We're previewing Week 13 in the NFL here at SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak, and we are talking right now with one of my favorite new guests, Joe Duffy, old-time handicapper. His website right now is offshoreinsiders.com. Joe, thanks for being here with us once again.
Well, thank you, Peter. Although my feelings were hurt, I wanted to be your absolute favorite new guest, not one of your favorites.
Well, I'll tell you this. You would be my favorite, except we've had some cappers who have been on absolute fire in these videos. I mean, some of these guys have been like we have one guy from AccuScore who's picked, giving us a winner for 8 weeks in a row or 7 weeks in a row. But, I mean, it's just, I feel very fortunate to have everyone in and this year, and you are definitely, it's like a murderer's row, and you fit right in as an all-star elite handicapper.
No, I like AccuScore. I do use their power ratings. I combine them with a couple other public power ratings, so that's a very good site. I agree with you.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's been a great year this year in general, and your edition has been one of the highlights for sure. All right, you're going to take Seattle at Chicago. This is a tough game. Another thing I love about you is you'll take all the games. You know, you don't have, some people sit there and comb through it, and they'll take one game they think they have value on. You'll take the games you think have great value. You'll take what I ask you to take. You'll take everything. 8 games a week, whatever. You don't care. Seattle at Chicago. This is a tough one, man. Chicago is a 3.5-point home favorite. Seattle, of course, they are second game off the bye. They lost to Miami in their last game. Some people thought that they were going to be a good bet there. They do have a quality defense and a very efficient team, if not spectacular in general. Chicago, they're surviving their quarterback issues. They beat the Vikings handily last week. I'm not sure what I would take here. What line do you think might have some value here?
Well, actually, to your original point, that is true. That what I always tell my customers is you don't want to pay the psychological juice. And that is, I know I've talked to so many gamblers over the years say, if I'm going to lose, I want to lose, betting on the New England Patriots, not the Oakland Raiders, for example. But we have found that good value is very often in going against very good teams or going with crappy teams. So, yeah, there is no question that picking these crappy non-marquee games can definitely be where the value is. I'm going with Chicago here, though.
Really?
As far as splits are concerned, I use them a lot more in the NBA and baseball, and by splits, we mean mostly home road. Of course, in baseball, we could be talking lefty-righty. There's a lot of other splits. We don't use it as much in the NFL, but it's tough to ignore how much better Seattle has been at home than on the road. And when you think about it, with a rookie quarterback, it's not all that shocking. Now, the home team is 10-1 straight up in Seattle's games and 9-2 against the spread. Now, Russell Wilson, his home road splits have been unbelievable. At home, 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. On the road, just the opposite. 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and as far as the quarterback rating, 122 at home. 122 at home and 75.5 on the road. And it also becomes a point where 95% of the game is half mental. They're aware of this. If you read the Seattle newspapers, they've been asked. Russell Wilson's been asked about it. The players have been asked about it. So they are very much aware that they are playing much better at home than they are on the road. Now, my regular clients might be a little surprised because I've been a Jay Cutler critic for years. But I let the facts guide me. He is clearly a drastically improved quarterback. The Jay Cutler that I ripped 2 years ago and 3 years ago and 4 years ago is not the same Jay Cutler in 2012. It looks like he is finally a late bloomer. And talk about splits, it's tough to ignore how much better Chicago has been with him in the lineup. They won 13 out of his last 15 starts. When he's been hurt, they're only 1-6 in those games. And, of course, a big difference is, regardless of what you think of Jay Cutler, he's clearly an upgrade from their backup, Jason Campbell. Talk about a big gap between the starter and the backup quarterback. So now that Cutler is healthy, he has that game under his belt since returning from an injury. Both of these teams have played so much better at home than on the road. A fairly small number. I'm going to have to go with the home team based in no small part due to the splits and due to the fact that Jay Cutler has converted me.
Wow. What another great preview. Yeah, I've been betting against Jay Cutler, especially as a decent-sized favorite, has been a great thing to do for a long time. It doesn't concern you, though? I mean, what if, a concussion is kind of like one of those sort of sneaky injuries that can sort of linger below the surface and affect the player's performance and then pop up again? I mean, would it shock you at all if he got, knocked out this game again with another concussion?
Well, his offensive line has been so-so, but that's why I said I was glad that he does have the one game under his belt. They were fairly conservative, threw some safe passes. No, Cutler's been around a long time. The one thing that I will always say about Cutler, he wasn't always mentally tough, but he was always physically tough. I've compared him to Jeff George for good or bad. Jeff George is one of these guys who wasn't always the most mentally tough guy, but he was physically tough. Jay Cutler's gotten a little bit mentally tougher, but I've never questioned his physical toughness. He's a guy who's able to take a beating. Now, of course, you get a concussion. I don't know if one can accurately handicap when a guy is going to get a concussion, other than the fact that Seattle's defense also has not been as good on the road. And for those of you, by the way, who like to bet quarter bets, Seattle has blown 3 fourth-quarter leads this year. So if Seattle goes into that fourth quarter with a lead, and assuming Jay Cutler is still in the game, I would look long and hard at betting Chicago on the fourth quarter line as well.
Right, or just the second half, again, if Seattle has a lead. Great preview, very, very thorough. As always, Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. I'm convinced Chicago -3.5 is the best play here. Thanks, man.